So another week, another UFC fight night, but this weekend it is from the UFC Apex, because of course it is. But in the main event, we've got Sandhagen in his first main event opportunity, taking on the former title challenger in Corey the Sandman Sandhagen. So that's your main event. We've got 14 fights in this card. We'll see how it goes. Your co-main currently, I think, is Njokuani taking on Gregory Rodrigues. You got Tanner Boser, Nascimento's in this card, and then Joe Pyfer is going to make his UFC debut also on the main card as well. So 14 fights this weekend from the UFC Apex. Sandhagen and Sandhagen is your main event. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for UFC here on the channel. So our first fight comes in the women's strawweight division. We have got Lookboonmee taking on Denise Gomes. For Lookboonmee, she is 6-3 in her professional MMA career, coming off a loss in her last fight to Lupi Godinez. But you know how good Godinez is. I know she just lost her last fight, unfortunately, to Angela Hill. But Godinez is pretty solid. Lookboonmee lost her in her last one. And really, you know what Lookboonmee is going to do. I mean, she doesn't really get finishes. She only has got one finish in her entire career. Comes back in 2018 in Pancrase in her second fight against a 2-4 fighter. But Lookboonmee's going to go in there. She's going to use her Muay Thai. She's going to try to out kickbox and out Muay Thai her opponents, and that's how usually she will get wins. Now, in her last win, though, over Sam Hughes, it was more her kind of mixing up the takedowns, and you know, even though Sam Hughes found some success on the ground as well, it was Lookboonmee mixing it up, but also, you know, showing effective striking in that fight as well. She won that one 2-1. Really, again, if Lookboonmee's going to win this fight, she's going to have to outstrike Denise Gomes, because Gomes is a fighter that likely won't try to take her down. You're probably going to see a stand-up affair between these two. Lookboonmee was on the wrong end of the wrestling spectrum, I guess, in her last fight when she fought Godinez. You know Lupi Godinez is the dominant wrestler. He's going to come out there, use her strength, and try to put her opponents on the ground. And of course, that's what Godinez did to Lookboonmee in their fight, but it's really not going to be, I don't think, it's not going to be a threat for Denise Gomes, because Denise Gomes is a fighter who is a straight stand-up fighter. She has, I would say, a lot of power for being a 115-pounder. She is only 22 years old. She's young in her career, and she's going to go in there. She's going to strike. She's a primary Muay Thai fighter as well, so really just a really good matchup here between two Muay Thai specialists in Gomes and Lookboonmee. I could see it either way. I really could. I mean, you see Gomes coming straight out of the Contender Series in her last one, picking up a huge victory, getting that contract. She won every single round in that fight. Didn't get a finish, but again, 130-27. I mean, again, we'll see. It's going to be, I think it's going to be apparent if, you know, Gomes is just straight up better than Lookboonmee, or it's going to be a levels fight, and you know, Gomes just isn't ready for this level of competition just yet. Again, she's 22. She really hasn't fought anybody just yet. She only fought once in Invicta. You know, she beats, she wins her fight on the Contender Series against a fighter who's 11-5. So honestly, I don't know how much I can put into it out of Gomes. I know she does have some power, but I think this fight will be a little bit tricky for her when she is trying to, you know, work inside on Lookboonmee. Lookboonmee uses her kicks and her push kicks really effectively to keep distance, especially her side kicks too. So I think that makes it tough on Gomes as well. I just don't know if Gomes is able to close distance and really land effectively on Lookboonmee. So I'm going to take Lookboonmee. I think, again, if this fight does hit the ground as well, I do like Lookboonmee as well. She's got a really nice head and arm throw that she'll throw out there as well. So if she does get into some trouble on the feet and she is feeling the power at Denise Gomes and she isn't, you know, liking it up there, then I think she can mix it up and put it on the ground. So I'm going to take Lookboonmee to win this fight. I think she'll get it done by decision. Again, not confident in the slightest of this pick, but I'm still going to take Lookboonmee to win the opener here. I got Lookboonmee by unanimous decision. So next up, we've got the undefeated Basharat taking on Tony Gravely. It's a fun fight, it really is, because Gravely keeps on winning. He's, what, 5-2 now in the UFC. Now, I was pretty down on Gravely after his loss to Nate Maness. I thought that was a fight that he was going to win. I thought, you know, I was kind of disappointed in that fight with him and Maness. Actually, no, I did pick Maness to win, but still, I was disappointed in the performance out of Gravely. I thought Gravely was going to fight a lot better in that fight. He did knock down Maness, but just getting finished by Nate Maness just wasn't ideal, I thought, for Tony Gravely in that fight, but he has bounced back, and he has won back-to-back fights. He looked really good in the Simon Oliveira fight. I mean, he takes down Oliveira 11 times in that fight. He's got 12 minutes of control against Oliveira in that one, and then after that, he knocks out Johnny Munoz in the first round. So Gravely is a very solid guy, and before the Maness loss, back-to-back wins over Geraldo de Freitas and Anthony Burchak as well. So Gravely's a solid guy, man. I mean, he's got a lot of power, but he's got, I mean, I guess he's kind of the typical wrestler. He's like, I mean, he's kind of like he's like a lower version of Michael Chandler. He's got a lot of power, will throw a big overhand right, but it's the dominant takedowns and it's the strength and the wrestling that will win Tony Gravely fights as well. But again, if he catches you with a big shot like he did against Johnny Munoz, he can put your lights out. So again, I don't know if I love the comparison with him and Michael Chandler, but I think it kind of works low-key, because Gravely, he is short for the 135-pound weight class. So yeah, screw it. I'll say Tony Gravely is kind of a smaller version and a toned-down version of Iron Michael Chandler. Now, he's going to be taking on Javid Basharat here, the Snow Leopard. And now, Basharat's coming off his first win in the UFC. It's a big win over Trevin Jones. Fight doesn't really hit the mat all that much. It really doesn't at all. It's basically just a kickboxing fight that Basharat wins. Basharat wins it all 3 rounds. I think Mike Bell gave 1 round to Trevin Jones in that one. But Basharat's good. I mean, you know the ground game that he's got. The big guillotine finish win that he had in the Contender Series was impressive. And again, the guy's undefeated. He's 12-0. So he's got the ground game, really. And he showed in his last fight he can box, too, with the big win over Trevin Jones. When it comes down to a prediction of this one, I think Basharat is the better fighter. I think Basharat is better on the ground. I think this one does hit the mat. I think Basharat can find himself in a whole lot better positions than what Tony Gravely can do. Again, I know Gravely probably will be the one initiating those takedowns, and he'll be the one initiating the fight to get it on the ground with his wrestling. But I think once it does get down there, does Gravely really want to be down there? Because Basharat's ground game, again, is so technically sound. And same with the striking. Again, Basharat's probably not knocking anybody out, but he's probably going to, if he does go in there, he will touch up Gravely. And as long as he's able to avoid those big power shots that Gravely can throw, I think Basharat should be fine. I think he should just be able to out-volume Tony Gravely and win this fight. So I'm going to take the Snow Leopard in this one. I think Gravely is going to fall victim to Javid Basharat in this one. I picked Basharat to submit Trevin Jones. I'm not going to pick him to submit Tony Gravely, even though I could see it 100%. I could definitely see Gravely shooting him for a double and Basharat just taking the neck and choking him out with the guillotine, because he has been able to sink that a couple times, I think 3 times already in his career. So I could definitely see a guillotine finish for Javid Basharat with Gravely shooting in. But I'm going to take Basharat by decision. I think he's a better striker. Actually, no, I wouldn't say he's a better striker. I think he's a better volume striker. I think Gravely, again, has got more power than him. But so, I think Gravely's got definitely a better chance of finishing the fight on the feet. But just in all, I think Basharat's got a good chance to win this fight if he can touch up Tony Gravely and if he can have success on the ground as well. So I'm going to take Javid Basharat to beat Tony Gravely. I got him to win by unanimous decision. All right, let's put on the wrestling boots. We've got Aspen Ladd versus Sarah McMann. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of what this fight is. Now, Aspen Ladd's striking is interesting because, okay, it's not the greatest, but when she throws, sometimes it's not horrible. Like, if you get the Aspen Ladd that we got at the beginning of the 3rd round against Yana Kunitskaya, okay, maybe, I mean, given, is the most technical striking? No, it's not, but she'll kind of just wing out strikes, and maybe they'll land, and when she does land, she does connect with some power. Now, the thing is, Aspen Ladd hasn't won since the Yana Kunitskaya fight. I know she blew out her knee and all of that. Now she's back, but she lost 2 straight fights against Norma Dumont and Raquel Pennington, and Aspen Ladd's kind of relied on the wrestling in her last couple of fights. Well, the other Raquel Pennington fight, she just got beat on the feet, and when Ladd couldn't get the fight on the ground, or when, Raquel kept working back up, Ladd just kept getting beat on the feet. Aspen Ladd beat Sijara Eubanks basically by wrestling her. She beat Yana Kunitskaya by, she knocked her down in the 3rd round, but she was competitive in that fight because of her wrestling before the knockdown of the 3rd round. And the Norma Dumont fight, that fight was really bad, but it was Aspen Ladd, again, trying to control her on the ground, especially late in that fight, and that's where she did find some success. Now, is she going to be able to control Sarah McMann on the ground, though? That's the thing. I don't think she's going to be able to. Sarah McMann, I know Juliana Pena was hyping up Sarah McMann when she was going to fight Amanda Nunes. She said, okay, I just beat the best wrestler in the weight class, and I'm going to go be the best striker in the weight class in Amanda Nunes. Honestly, though, I know that was Julie trying to hype herself up, but it's kind of true. Sarah McMann seriously is probably the best wrestler at 135 right now. Straight up. If you just, forget jiu-jitsu, forget positioning and all that, forget, MMA wrestling, just think pure wrestling, Sarah McMann probably is the best pure wrestler in the weight class right now. Of course, former Olympian Sarah McMann. So I just think that makes it tough on Aspen Ladd, because especially that's where Ladd's found her success recently, is on the ground and is trying to find takedowns. If she's not able to take down Sarah McMann, what does she do? I know Sarah McMann's old, she's 41 years old, but that doesn't take away from what she is known to do and what she just did in Columbus earlier this year against Carol Hossa. It wasn't the greatest fight, it was boring, but it was Sarah McMann taking her down for 11 minutes, right? So if Sarah McMann's able to do the same thing against Aspen Ladd, or at least force Aspen Ladd to get into a tricky fight with her, Sarah McMann should win. If Ladd's not the one pushing the pace in the ground, if Ladd's not the one, advancing positioning with takedowns, I think it's going to be a long night for her, and I think Sarah McMann's going to win. Now, on the feet, this fight's horrible. Don't get me wrong. I think this is the one fight where Aspen Ladd does have the advantage on the feet. I think she is a better striker between her and Sarah McMann. McMann is just generally pretty slow on the feet, and I don't like her striking all that much, just because, again, she is a wrestler, and that's where she should want fights, and that's where she's always wanted fights. So I don't feel great about the hands out of Sarah McMann, but I don't feel great about the hands at Aspen Ladd either. I just think Ladd's striking is a little bit more developed than what Sarah McMann's striking is. But again, pure wrestling, I'm taking Sarah McMann. Jiu-jitsu, it's interesting because, again, McMann doesn't, she fights with heavy top pressure. And again, she got submitted by Juliana Pena in their fight in Abu Dhabi, the fight that, of course, got Pena a title shot. But don't forget, Sarah McMann was winning that fight until Julie submitted her in the 3rd round. You can make the case definitely that McMann was up 2-0 going into the 3rd. And the 3rd, of course, Julie lands the takedown. And then she submits her with a rear naked choke. Now, Juliana Pena, though, if Sam McMann's the best wrestler in the weight class. Juliana Pena is in the top 3. I mean, really, that's how good Juliana Pena is, too. I think McMann's better than Aspen Ladd. I think she'll be able to out-scramble her on the ground. I think she'll be able to out-wrestle her, and I don't think Ladd's going to find too much success to the point where she's going to be putting out Sarah McMann because of her striking. Now, the one spot where I am concerned about Sarah McMann in this fight is if she tries to take down Aspen Ladd, Ladd sprawls, Ladd gets on top, and then she works a ground and pound, because that's something that will give Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd's got really good ground and pound, and she's very ferocious with her strikes from top. So you gotta hope Sarah McMann does not get stuck on bottom in this fight. I'm gonna say she isn't. I think she will be careful enough with her takedowns to work into the clinch and eventually drag down Aspen Ladd and finish on her takedown. So I'm gonna take Sarah McMann to win this fight here. I think she'll beat Aspen Ladd. I got her by decision. Not confident, but we're going with the 41-year-old in Sarah McMann. Okay, so how good is Maria Agapova? That's the question I ask here, because I kind of know what Jillian Robertson is. I know she's not the greatest, but I know she can stay competitive with a lot of fighters, and she's got a good ground game. I mean, a lot of people thought she was gonna beat JJ Aldridge. I didn't think so. I got Aldridge right in that fight because I thought Aldridge again was just going to keep it standing. I thought that fight stylistically was bad for Robertson. But like, I kind of know what Robertson offers if she's not getting the fight on the ground and she's not implementing her style, which is her, jiu-jitsu, if she's not the one implementing her game plan, she's going to lose the fight because she'll get stuck in the feet and she'll just get touched up by her opponent. Or if not, she will get beat on the ground like she did against Taila Santos and like she did against Miranda Maverick, right? So and I think it's pretty simple. I feel like Jillian Robertson fights are pretty easy to predict. And I think I've usually gotten Jillian Robertson fights right for the most part throughout my time picking Jillian Robertson. It's just, if Robertson has the superior jiu-jitsu and the superior wrestling, she wins. Right? And if it's fairly obvious. If it's not obvious, she probably loses the fight. So the fights that she wins, Priscilla Cachoeira's a primary striker. She out-wrestled Priscilla Cachoeira. She took her bat and she submitted her. Okay, so Robertson won. Who won before that's Courtney Casey. Or no, Paulina Botello, but still Botello, you kind of knew Jillian Robertson wins that fight. Courtney Casey's ground game isn't the greatest either. She went there, she submitted her. But the fighters that, like a JJ Aldridge, right? Aldridge is probably a better striker than her and Robertson. She was, and she won the fight. Miranda Maverick was the superior wrestler, so she, outgrounded her. Same with Taila Santos. Santos was able to ground her, and Santos was able to outstrike her too. In this fight, though, with Maria Agapova, again, I just don't know how good Agapova is going into this fight because she's 2-2 in the UFC. She comes in with all this hype after she beats Hannah Cifers, then she loses to a 3-4 Shanna Dobson, beats Sabina Mazo, who's not the greatest, and then gets choked out by Marina Moroz. So where are we now? Right? Because again, it's been back and forth wins and losses for Maria Agapova. Her striking is good. Like, she can get going like she did against Hannah Cifers. But if she tires like she did against Shanna Dobson, she might just get finished on the ground again like she did against Shanna Dobson. Maria Moroz eventually late in the fight, got her down on the ground, submitted her, took her back. Right? No, it's arm triangle from half guard, but still, right? I mean, I don't know how good Maria Agapova really is. But I will tell you this. I don't know if Jillian Robertson's able to engage and take her down and give Maria Agapova too many problems. I mean, I think definitely Jillian's going to have to outlast her and eventually take her back and submit her. But I think it's just, how does Jillian Robertson get there? Because I think Agapova is striking so much better than Robertson is. I mean, Agapova's got a 68-inch reach. Jillian's got 63, so it'll be a 5-inch reach advantage for Agapova. If she's able to keep her range, I think this is going to be hell for Jillian Robertson. And I think, honestly, it will be like the Hannah Cifers fight. It's just a matter of, can Agapova not tire? And can she connect on the strikes that she throws? And again, can she stay in the fight for all 15 minutes and not get her back taken and submitted by Jillian Robertson? Because if Robertson wins, I think it will likely be by submission. If not, I think Agapova gets it done either by knockout or by decision. Okay, I'm going to go Maria Agapova in this fight. I think Agapova is able to finish Jillian Robertson in this one, which is a crazy statement. Again, picking up finish in a women's fight is kind of tough to do. I'm going to take it here, though. I'm going to take Maria Agapova to finish Jillian Robertson in the first round by knockout. I think it'll be pretty blatantly obvious earlier that Robertson is not on the same level as Agapova is on the feet. And I think if Agapova is going to win, it will be very early, and it will be by some blitz early in the fight with big hooks that she'll land on Robertson. So I think Agapova is able to land. I think she'll be able to outland, or I think she'll be able to land. I think she'll be able to outpower Robertson and sit her down. So I'm going to take Maria Agapova to knock out Jillian Robertson in the first. So next up, we have got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. And for Fluffy Hernandez, coming off that big win in his last fight, it was kind of a grueling fight against Josh Fremd. Fremd coming in from FAC, and Anthony Hernandez really just comes in there and he just outgrinds Fremd in that fight. But you can give potentially that second round to Josh Fremd. That was around they got close. That Sal D'Amato gave to Josh Fremd, but I gave all 3 to Anthony Hernandez. But you go into that third thinking, okay, maybe this is tied 1-1. But Hernandez again goes in there, lands an early takedown, and just outgrinds and out wrestles Josh Fremd in that third round. Again, a grueling fight, a very tough fight to fight, but Hernandez won. Really, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez has been really impressive since his loss to Kevin Holland. I mean, the back-to-back wins against Adolfo Vieira and Josh Fremd looked very good. Of course, Anthony Hernandez submits the black belt hunter in Adolfo Vieira with the guillotine choke, given Adolfo got tired pretty quickly in that fight. But credit in the world to Anthony Hernandez by surviving all those scrambles on the ground against that, black belt killer in Adolfo Vieira and giving Vieira his first loss ever of his career. But, you know what Fluffy does well? He's a very good grappler. He's a good wrestler who can come in there and, can sink in submissions, and he can win fights like that as well. So that's what Fluffy's good at. Again, the Josh Fremd fight, if it was, ever need to be more apparent, he's a very good wrestler who can grind fights out. Now he's going to be taking on Marc-Andre Barriault in this fight, and for Marc-Andre Barriault, he has won 3 of his last 4. The one loss being that quick knockout finish against Njokuani, where Chi bang bang knocked him out with a huge overhand right 16 seconds into the first round. Of course, we're going to see Njokuani in the co-main event against Gregory Rodrigues, but Barriault came back 2 months later, and I didn't think he was going to beat Jordan Wright because, again, he just got knocked out by Njokuani 2 months previous to that fact, but he comes in and he goes in there and beats Jordan Wright. He submits him with a mounted guillotine in the first round before the Chidi Njokuani loss. Back-to-back wins over Abu Uzaitar and Dalcha Lujambula. Back-to-back wins again for Marc-Andre Barriault, because it was a tough start for him in the UFC. I mean, he came in with pretty much, I wouldn't say a lot of hype, but he came in with some hype. Coming over from TKO, he's the champion over there. He loses to Andrew Sanchez. He loses to Christophe Jotko. He loses to Jun Young Park. He's got that weird mix-up in the Piotr fight, which he wins, but of course gets overturned. And then he takes on Abu Azaitar and he wins, beats Lujambula, runs it in Njokuani, loses, and then beats Jordan Wright. I think it's pretty obvious Barriault's going to try to keep this one standing. Fluffy's going to try to get on the ground. Where's this fight going to go? Marc-Andre Barriault does not stuff takedowns. He's all right at stuffing takedowns. He has gotten taken down by Jordan Wright, and eventually, of course, that's where Barriault ended up submitting him, and Barriault showed that, okay, he does have some jiu-jitsu, I guess, because I think that was Barriault's first ever submission win. Yes, it was against Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja. But if a guy like Dalcha Lujambula is able to take you down a couple times and give you a little bit of danger down the feet, actually, no, Lujambula didn't really offer too much in the ground against Barriault, but he was able to take him down. Jun Young Park took him down 5 times, but you know how good of a wrestling game Park has got. But again, I don't even think that matters, because Fluffy's got a better wrestling game than all these guys. Like, yeah, maybe it's, it's on the same level of Jun Young Park, but if Park's able to take him down 5 times, Fluffy Hernandez should be able to take him down, should be able to take down Marc-Andre Barriault 5 times as well. So I'm going to take Fluffy Hernandez in this fight. I think he is able to find that takedown early and often against Barriault. I think it just makes it tough on Barriault to fight this fight, because I think he'll be on his back pretty much for the majority of the fight. I think there's a chance Fluffy Hernandez comes in there and he sinks into submission, he taps him out. I'm going to go with the decision, though. I'll go with the safe pick. I think Fluffy really can just out-wrestles him, out-grinds him, similar to what he did in the Josh Fremd fight, and eventually he'll just ride it out for a decision victory. So I'm going to take Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to win this fight. I got him to beat Marc-Andre Barriault by decision. What a fight at featherweight, man. We've got Damon Jackson taking on Pat Sabatini. It is buried on this undercard, but it is a pure banger, this fight. Sabatini's 4-0 in the UFC. Damon Jackson's on a huge 3-fight winning streak. His only loss in the UFC is to Ilya Topuria. Pure banger here. Jackson's 4-1, Sabatini's 4-0 in the UFC. Guaranteed fireworks in this fight, because both these guys are really good on the ground. They've got really slick jiu-jitsu and ground games. It should make for a lot of fun in this fight, because Damon Jackson's coming to the UFC, of course, after fighting in the PFL, that fight where he lost to Kublaev. You got knocked out by a jumping knee in the first round. But anyways, he comes in, wins an LFA, then goes to the UFC, beats Mirsad Bektic, loses to Topuria, gets knocked down the first round, then wins back-to-back fights over Charles Rosa, Kamuela Kirk, and Dan Argueta. And the Argueta fight most recently for Damon Jackson. Another one of those grueling fights in the ground. We talked about it earlier with Josh Fremd and Fluffy Hernandez. That was a tough fight for Damon Jackson. You got to go in there. He's got to outgrind the wrestler and Dan Argueta. Hell, in that first round, there wasn't a significant strike thrown in that first between Jackson and Argueta. But again, it was one of those fights. Jackson may have been a minus 720 favorite, but it did not feel like that. And that's how good Daniel Argueta is. Of course, he fought in the Ultimate Fighter, lost to Ricky Tercios, but he won 3 straight fights, won the LFA Bantamweight Championship, and that guy deserves to be in the UFC. Excited for him and excited also for Brady Hiestand, who's going to be fighting pretty soon. He got second on the Ultimate Fighter season last year at featherweight. Really excited to see him back in the UFC as well. Lost to Ricky Tercios in his last fight, but excited for Hiestand and excited for what we're going to see out of Argueta. I think looking back at it, that Ultimate Fighter season and the guys we got on that show, really impressive and a lot better than the guys that we're going to get coming in from the heavyweights and even the women coming up the flyweight division in the latest season with Nunes and Pena. Anyways, I think definitely that Damon Jackson's very good. I mean, you look at his fights, of course, the Argueta one's good. It's a lot of good wrestling out of him in that fight. The Camwell and Kirk fight, he takes him down, submits him with an arm triangle, got a lot of ground pressure in that fight. Charles Rosa, it's just one of those fights where if Charles Rosa is not the better wrestler, he loses, and that's what Damon Jackson did to him. He got out-wrestled by Mirsad Bektic. Bektic was just dominating him on the ground until eventually, Jackson sinks into guillotine, submits him, and talks a lot of crap after he does. But again, you always got to be worried about the ground game at a Damon Jackson, but the thing is, his opponent in this fight is Pat Sabatini. And my goodness, Pat Sabatini has been just wrecking shop so far in the UFC. I mean, this guy, I can't tell you how much Pat Sabatini has impressed me. The guy is 4-0. He comes in the UFC, takes on a pretty tough out, and Tristan Connolly goes in there. He knocks down Connolly in the first round and then just rides it out on the ground. Basically, after that, he loses the third, but he wins the first 2 with his wrestling and with his ground pressure. Then after that, he beats Jamal Emmers. The fight where Emmers has got him. He's got him on the ground until, no, he doesn't, because Pat Sabatini locks in a heel hook and he submits him in that first round. Crazy turn of events in that fight in the Barbosa Chikadze Ultimate Fighter finale card last year. Then after that for Sabatini, he goes in there, he beats Tucker Lutz. He showed, okay, I'm the better wrestler. I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna implement my game plan and my style of fighting. 11 minutes of control time in that fight and the win over Tucker Lutz. And then after that, took on another very tough guy, TJ Laramie. Went in there, I thought he was gonna go in there and get a quick submission. Anyways, though, instead, he went in there, and again, it was one of those fights, like again, Fremd and Hernandez, grueling fight in the ground. Is a 30-26 victory for Pat Sabatini, but Laramie had his moments, and Laramie had his moments of success on the ground as well, especially in that first round. But it was definitely towards the end of that fight where Sabatini started to take over, and his wrestling again just really proved to be so beneficial in that fight. So again, I think very highly of Pat Sabatini. I think this guy's wrestling and his jiu-jitsu game is so damn talented. I think he's a special guy down there. Same with Damon Jackson, but I just think Sabatini's better. I mean, straight up, Sabatini's better. I think he's younger as well. The guy just, he's looked pretty untouchable so far in the UFC. I think it's more the same in this Damon Jackson fight. I think it's just dominant wrestling. If Jackson gets back up, Sabatini works back to the takedown, dumps him. Gets back up, dumps him again. I think that's how good Sabatini is. I think he's able to control wherever this fight does take place. I'm going to take Pat Sabatini to beat Damon Leach. I got him to win this one by unanimous decision. Okay, so this fight's interesting considering these are two guys who, Trevin Giles' nickname is the problem, but two guys who have been having problems in the UFC, at least as of late. So Giles and Cosce. Cosce's had one fight in the UFC. He lost to Sasha Planatlikov. It's a fight where, Planatlikov's no longer in the UFC. This guy, lost on XMMA of all organizations in his last fight. He got subbed in the third round by the guy who was on, Tough Enough, the WWE show, the WWE reality show that Stone Cold Steve Austin was the host of in the last season. But anyways, I think Stone Cold was the host. I didn't watch, but I think he was. Anyways, Planatnikov got submitted by some guy who was trying to make it to the WWE, and now he's back in MMA. Cosce lost to Planatnikov. Planatnikov's out the UFC by now. He lost to Impa Kasanganay. Planatnikov, I think, went 1-2 in the UFC. Yeah, he beats Cosce, loses to Kasanganay, loses to him as Brahimai, and then he went to XMA and Tough Enough in those promotions. Not the WWE Tough Enough, a fight promotion called Tough Enough. A lot of parallels in that little Sasha Planatnikov career overview, but for Cosce, again, his only loss is to Sasha Planatnikov. His only fight is to Sasha Planatnikov. That was in November of 2020. He has not fought since then. He was booked against Preston Parsons earlier this year, but that fight fell through. And for me, the Cosce signing was interesting because, I know they wanted it because his brother, Orion Cosce's in the UFC too, and they wanted both the brothers on the same episode of the Contender Series, which makes sense. But, his run up to that contender card, he beats a bunch of guys who are 4-4, 2-3, 0-0, 18-42, 4-8, 4-4. He wins on Combate Stockton, and then he goes in, beats Victor Rania, and he knocks him out in the first round and finishes him. Victor Rania's a guy who hasn't fought since then either. He's got to win, I think, over Daniel Rodrigues. Yeah, he does, who just, beat Li Jingliang in his last fight, which, I don't know. I thought Li Jingliang probably won that one, and I picked Daniel Rodrigues to win, but, went our way, whatever. I'm not going to complain. But I just don't know, again. I don't think Cosce's the greatest, and I don't think Trevin Giles at this point of his career isn't the greatest either. I mean, this guy's gone on back-to-back losses to Michael Morales and Rodrigues Duplessis. Of course, got knocked out by Morales in the first round in the main card of UFC 270 in Anaheim, and then Rodrigues Duplessis sat him down in the second round in Las Vegas, even though Giles looked all right in the first round. But again, you know, Rodrigues Duplessis is an incredibly slow starter. Even the win that he had over Brad Tavares, the guy's a slow starter, and I think, you know, Rodrigues Duplessis versus Darren Till's a fun fight in December. I think Duplessis wins. We'll see if it even happens in the first place. But Giles, again, back-to-back losses. He had 3 straight wins before that. That losing streak beat James Krause with split decision in a fight that everyone thought he lost. Beat Vivon Lewis, who is now losing in PFL, and he beat Roman Dolidze, giving Dolidze his first loss, beating him by unanimous decision. Yeah, though, even though I think this is kind of low level, and I think both these guys are in desperate need of a win, I think the loser definitely gets cut here. I think actually maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I think it just does make for a fight and a stylistically pleasing fight where someone probably will get put down and finished. And I think it will be Luis Cosce on the wrong end of the knockout here. I think Trevin Giles will find that big power shot early, and I think he will put him down. I'm not too impressed with Luis Cosce at all. Again, he's had his fights against guys who are very low level. You know, even on the Contender Series against a guy who hasn't fought since he's 11-5. The Sasha Planatnikov's only UFC fights against a guy, again, who only lasted 3 fights in the UFC and who is now losing outside of the UFC as well. So I'm not all that impressed with Cosce. I think Giles is going to find that big shot early. I think he's going to find that big power shot, put him down, and get back on his winning ways. I'm going to take the problem, Trevin Giles, to knock out Luis Cosce, getting back in the win column with a first-round knockout. So yeah, another interesting one with 2 guys trying to find their first UFC victory. You've got Nicholas Motta taking on Cameron VanCamp here. And for Cameron VanCamp, get signed to the UFC, and originally it was supposed to be Cameron VanCamp versus Nicholas Motta in both these guys' first UFC fight. I know Motta was originally scheduled to fight Damir Hazovic first, but then he gets scheduled against Cameron VanCamp. That fight gets canceled, never happens. And VanCamp after that goes on to Andre Fiallo, getting knocked out in the first round with a huge left hook at UFC 274. And then for Motta, he goes on and he fights Jim Miller, and he gets knocked out in the second round with a right hook as well. So both these guys are actually, VanCamp got knocked out with the left hook and then Motta with the right, but still, both these guys get knocked out in their first UFC fight. Now, given VanCamp's was at 170 and Motta's was at 155, but originally I think they were supposed to fight at 155, I think. But actually, no, Cameron VanCamp fought a lot at 170 outside the UFC. So actually, VanCamp has not fought at 155, at least in a very long time. It was pre-2018. So actually, 2018 was the last fight that VanCamp fought at lightweight. You got to go back to his Coliseum Combat 44 championship fight against Thomas Gifford, where he lost? No, it was a no contest. No contest against Gifford. He's a guy who just fought, obviously he was in the UFC a couple years ago. Gifford lost to Roosevelt Robertson, Mike Davis, but that was the last time VanCamp fought at 55. So it has been a while, and now he's going to come back and he's going to take on Nicholas Motta at 55, a guy who has been fighting a lot at 155 before, of course, this one, again, another lightweight fight. But he comes in the UFC, fought in the Ultimate Fighter season for Brazil. He won on shoot, though, a couple of times, goes to CFFC, wins 2 fights, then gets his shot, of course, in the UFC or on the Contender Series after winning the vacant lightweight championship over there with Cage Fury. He beat Juan Gonzalez by unanimous decision in the co-main event to Pat Sabatini in the main event. But now Motta, again, goes on. He beats Joe Lowry in the Contender Series by decision. Lowry has not fought since that fight, and then Motta goes in there and loses to Jim Miller. VanCamp, I think, would have the grappling advantage. I don't know. Motta's got some decent jiu-jitsu, but no, it's probably not on the level of VanCamp. So for VanCamp, he's probably going to try to take down Motta, and for Motta, he's going to try to keep her on the feet and knock Cameron VanCamp's head off. Of course, though, both these guys got knocked down in their last fight. Motta got outstruck pretty handily by Jim Miller, and for Cameron VanCamp, he was staying competitive with Andre Fiallo until he wasn't, until he got knocked out. But I think the ground game makes this a lot more interesting for VanCamp. Again, we say it all the time. I mean, your wrestling and your grappling makes your striking so much better. And if VanCamp can at least, pose a threat on the ground and pose, that he's going to shoot on Nicholas Motta, he'll make it difficult for Motta to find his shot striking. So I don't know. Again, I would not put money on this fight. It's 2 guys who, they're 0-1 in the UFC, both of them. You don't know how good either of them really are. And for Nicholas Motta, something just to watch out for. He has been knocked out 3 times in his career, and he's only 12-4. So 3 of his 4 losses are by knockout. The guy's only 29, but he has been knocked out 3 times. Again, for VanCamp, though, got knocked out by Fiallo, and then he got submitted a couple times in the past. He got knocked out back in 2015. I don't think that makes too much of a difference. I don't know, man. Don't put money on this fight. I don't really know what the odds are on this. I think the slight favorite on Tapology is Nicholas Motta. I think if you're going to pick Motta, you're probably going to pick him by knockout or decision. For VanCamp, you can really pick him with one of the three. You can pick him by knockout because you can say, okay, Motta doesn't have the best chin. You can pick him by submission because VanCamp does get a lot of wins down there. Before the UFC, he was on a 3-fight winning streak. All 3 of them were by submission, and then by decision, of course. I mean, you can make the case for really anyone to win by decision at any weight class possible. Man, it's a tough fight for me to pick. Ever so slightly, though, I'm going to take Nicholas Motta. I don't love VanCamp going back down to 155 and coming back, or coming to Nicholas Motta's weight that he has been, fighting at for a very long time. I think Motta is probably going to catch him eventually. I think he'll put him down. I think Nicholas Motta is going to find that big power shot. I think he'll knock out Cameron VanCamp in the second. I'm not too confident at all at this pick, but I like the power shots out of Motta. I think he's a better power striker. Technically sound-wise on the feet, and in terms of volume, I take VanCamp ever so slightly, but I'm going to take Nicholas Motta to knock out Cameron VanCamp. I got him by first round KO. So we've got the UFC debut of Daniel Zellhuber. The Golden Boy is undefeated. He's 12-0 coming off that huge win in the Contender Series last year against Lucas Almeida, who Almeida, of course, now in the UFC as well. He lost to Mike Trezano in his first fight in the UFC. He's going to go fight Zubaira Tuhugov in like 3 weeks at UFC 280. But anyways, Zellhuber wins that fight on the Contender, and this guy, man, he's good. He is a big lightweight. Same can be said about his opponent, though, of Trey Ogden. Ogden's 5'11", so 2 big guys for the weight class, really. But Daniel Zellhuber with a 77-inch reach. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall, and for Ogden, he's 5'11", 71.5-inch reach. But man, this is a fun fight. It really is, because Zellhuber's a guy, man, who, he can keep distance really well. He's got some powerful shots in the feet. He's got a lot of first-round knockouts in various promotions in Latin America. Lux Fight League, I'm looking at Icon, looking at Combate, all those different fight promotions. But a lot of big knockouts, and he's not afraid to go on the ground as well, and he's good on the ground, too. I mean, given some of his opponents aren't the greatest, but he's fought some guys who are difficult opponents, and Zellhuber has fought very well against them. He's mixed it up on the ground. He's shown his ground game. He's shown his top pressure. He's shown that he can mix it up on the feet and on the ground, and it's not a problem for him. Now, I think on the feet, this fight is this is not going to be difficult at all on the feet standing for Daniel Zellhuber. Because Trey Ogden, I don't think he offers too much for Zellhuber on the feet. He's not the greatest striker. Jordan Levitt was even able to outstrike him, and Jordan Levitt is not the best striker. Ogden is a grappler, and Ogden is a guy who's going to try to submit Daniel Zellhuber. But Zellhuber, I think, is so long and so just difficult and rangy and tough to figure out, where I don't even know if Ogden can really close distance to get to the point to clinch up with him and get that takedown and bring Zellhuber down. I think Zellhuber, again, once Ogden, feels his power and what he's got behind his punching power, I think it's going to be tough on Ogden, again, to just come back in there and be willing to step through the fire and try to take down Zellhuber again, because I think, again, Zellhuber is going to be able to keep piecing him up on the feet. If the fight does get to the ground, I don't think it's like an automatic submission at all for Ogden either. I think Zellhuber's really good on the ground. He's very solid defensively, even though most of his fights that I've seen out of him, it's always been him on the attack he's always on the attack. Yeah, he's always on the attack, excuse me. It took me like 3 times to say that, but he's always on the attack, like I said it again, when he's on the ground, right? So, because he's always just so much better than his other opponents, and he's always going in there and getting quick finishes. So, honestly, I can't tell you how good he is defensively, but from what I've seen, it looks like he's pretty well accustomed to being on the ground. But in this fight against Ogden, I don't even know if this one hits the ground, because I just think that's how much of a discrepancy we face in the feet. I think Zellhuber, again, is just going to land very early on Ogden. I think he's going to damage him very quickly in this fight, and I just think on the feet, it's a pure mismatch. I'm going to take Daniel Zellhuber in his UFC debut. He's only 23 years old to come in there. I think he'll knock out Trey Ogden. I got Zellhuber to win this one by first round KO. So the first of 5 main card fights, at least for now, we've got Andre Fili taking on Senor Perfecto in Bill Algeo. And as for Andre Fili, he hasn't won a fight since summer 2020. It was that split decision victory over Charles Jourdain, who, of course, my guy Charles Jourdain just lost to Nathaniel Wood in Paris, France. But anyways, Jourdain fought Andre Fili on that Calvillo card. I thought Charles Jourdain did enough to win that fight. I mean, I had personally had Jourdain to win that first, of course, with the knockdown, and I had him to win the second as well. I don't know. I mean, you can go either way with that fight. It's okay. But I thought Jourdain should have won that one. If you give that fight for Jourdain, then Andre Fili's last win is 2019, the right hook knockout of Shimon Moraes. Now, again, he gets the win over Charles Jourdain, and he was well on his way to beating Daniel Pineda in the summer of 2021 as well. It was on that Gon Volkov card. Fili is just dominating that fight, but eventually he just accidentally connects with an eye poke. Pineda can't continue the fight, and eventually, of course, it goes down as a no contest. Pineda has not fought since, and after that, Fili came back about a year later, fought Joanderson Brito in a fight where Brito showed, okay, that guy's got a lot of power. He might not be the best technical striker, but he's going to swing, and he's going to try to land big punches with powerful intent, and that's what he did against Fili. He put him down in the first round, winning that fight by a 40-second knockout. For Andre Fili, though, when he is on, this guy can be very good. He's really good at mixing up the takedowns along with the strikes, and if he just, has to become a straight-up striker like you saw in the Miles Jury fight, he can win fights that way as well. He has been on some, on the other side of some close split decisions. Actually just won, but I'm looking at the Michael Johnson fight. Now, I thought Michael Johnson won. A lot of people thought Fili won. I don't know. But again, you know what you're going to get out of an Andre Fili fight. He's got okay striking that he can land with some power, but it's going to be him mixing up the takedowns alongside the kickboxing that he will display, which will give you an Andre Fili type of fight. Now, he's going to be taking on Bill Algeo in this one. Algeo looked really good in his last fight. I mean, I don't know. Was it either just Algeo looking really good, or was it Herbert Burns not fighting that fight well at all? Now, Burns kind of just quit in the second round. I forgot he had some sort of medical issue with him in that fight, or at least going into that fight in Long Island in July of this year. But Algeo wins it. Herbert Burns couldn't continue in the second round. It was just kind of TKO due to pure exhaustion from Herbert Burns in that fight, which gave Bill Algeo the victory. And before that, Algeo beat Joe Anderson Brito. It was Brito's first fight in the UFC, which actually I thought Brito was going to win. Anyways, I picked Fili to beat Brito. He lost, and I picked Brito to beat Brito to beat Algeo, and Algeo wins. But if you want to play MMA math, okay, Algeo's got a victory over Anderson Brito, and Fili doesn't. But what Algeo was able to do in that one, again, it was Algeo mixing up takedowns. I feel like Algeo and Fili fight a very similar style of fight. Both these guys can mix it up, and they can both go on the feet as well. But in that fight, again, it was Algeo. He just didn't get hit with the big power shots out of Brito. And Brito is going to be a slow starter into fights. It's just a matter of can he land early in the fight, because really, his first ever UFC fight against Algeo, he just wasn't really willing to engage in that first round. Now, Brito lands a takedown. He does solid damage down there. It doesn't do damage, but just gains solid control time in that first round. But he wasn't really willing to unload anything big early in that fight, and that was the difference between him taking that fight against Algeo on the Kader Chikadze card and him knocking out Fili. He was just in the Fili fight. He let the hands go immediately, and he put him down. That's when, of course, Brito's going to have the most power. He's going to be early in the fight when he is swinging and throwing big looping shots. But again, Algeo was able to stay out the way of the big power shots, and he ended up winning it by decision. So my pick on this fight, though, with Fili and Algeo, I'm going to take Bill Algeo. I think Algeo is just kind of a better version of what Fili is now. I think both these guys mix it up real well. You're going to see scrambles out of takedowns out of both these guys. But on the field, like Algeo, I think Algeo is the better striker between him and Fili at this point in time. Fili's been in there for a while in the UFC, made his UFC debut back at UFC 166, Velasquez versus Dos Santos 3. Again, free Kane. I'll say it every single time that I mention Cain Velasquez's name on the channel, but it was a win for Andre Fili over Jeremy Larson. Knockout finish in the second round. And after that, of course, in 2014, he went on to fight Max Blessed Holloway at UFC 172 in Baltimore. But I mean, I just think Fili's been in there for a while. I'm going to take Algeo. I think Algeo, in terms of UFC damage, is the much fresher fighter. I think he's the better fighter. I think he's quicker on the feet. I think his wrestling's slightly better. I'm going to take Senior Perfecto Bill Algeo, and I think his body work's going to be huge in this fight, working the body of Fili, and I think he'll eventually win this one via strikes, but of course it'll be by decision, but it'll be mostly out of him striking against Andre Fili. So I'm going to take Bill Algeo to win this one by decision. So I mean, by far the easiest fight to pick up this entire card, Joe Pyfer, Alan Amedovski. So Joe Pyfer's probably going to win. I mean, at least he should win. I think Pyfer's going to win by first round knockout. Now, I will explain to you why they're doing this. So, Alan Amedovski's on a 3-fight losing streak. He comes in the UFC after fighting on Bellator a couple times. UFC picked him up after he went 2-0 in Bellator. He comes in, he loses to Krzysztof Jotko's first fight in the promotion by unanimous decision. Okay, not ideal, but then he comes in after he gets knocked out by, of all people, John Phillips, who is not very good in the UFC. Then he was supposed to fight Bavon Lewis, fight never happened. Supposed to fight Hu Yang Zhang, fight never happened. Supposed to fight Yang Zhang again, didn't happen. Then he fought Joe Holmes and he got submitted in the first round. So this guy has been finished twice in the first round, in a minute and 18 seconds accumulative over his second 2 fights in the UFC. And his first fight lost by unanimous decision to Jotko, which given he looked horrible in that fight. He didn't do anything against Krzysztof Jotko. He got 30-25 in that fight. Alan Amedovski has been, to put it simply and put it bluntly, he's been horrible in the UFC. The guy has not been good. They are giving him Joe Pyfer because Joe Pyfer, they want to build his name. They want to build Pyfer. Because, of course, Pyfer came in on the first episode of the Contender Series this year. He's the only guy to get a contract, even though, of course, our guy who just lost to Jaitan Almeida last night was on the card as well, but he got the UFC contract eventually. But Pyfer goes in there, he knocks out Ozzy Diaz in the second round. Dana White drops the line, be like Joe Pyfer. Be like Joe Pyfer and you will be in the UFC. And that's kind of been the thing since then. And of course, everyone's basically gotten a contract except for Bo Nickel at this point. If you win a fight, you get a contract because Dana White gives everyone a contract. But I think Pyfer, I mean, you know what they're doing with Joe Pyfer here. They want him to go out there and knock out Alen Amedovski early in the first round. That's what he's going to do. I think a lot of fighters, and I think most fighters, honestly, the UFC does carry right now, 185 pounds, would knock out Alen Amedovski in the first round. It's just because Amedovski's not very good at all. So give me Joe Pyfer. Again, this is the easiest one to pick on the entire card. I'm not even going to spend too much time on it. I've got Joe Pyfer, body bags. Of course, Dana White, be like Joe Pyfer, is going to go in there. He's going to knock out Alen Amedovski in the first round. Give me Pyfer again and by first round and knockout finish. So a heavyweight matchup now between Tanner Boser and Rodrigues Nascimento. I mean, I would kind of say this is striker versus grappler, but I don't think it's that simple because Nascimento in his last fight showed that he can go out there and he can box. I mean, given he fought Alain Baudot, who Alain Baudot is not very good, and the guy still hasn't won the UFC. Just lost to Josh Parisian, of all people, in his last fight, in one of the worst UFC fights I've ever seen in my life on the Sarukian Gamrot card. I mean, I laughed my way through that fight. It was on a main card. It made no sense why it was that high on the card, but it happened. And Dana White, for some reason, really liked the performance out of Baudot's opponent in that fight, of course, in... I'm forgetting his name. I'm looking at Josh Parisian. Anyways, Nascimento, Tanner Boser in this fight. Nascimento has not fought since late 2021, or actually it was the summer of 2021. He beats Alain Baudot, he finishes him, but of course he got suspended. I believe it was USADA issues. It's a no contest now. But Nascimento, before that in the UFC, comes in, he beats Dontel Mays, where he subs him by second round Rene could choke, which honestly isn't the hardest thing to do, and then he gets knocked up at Christakis in the first round. And now he's taken on a guy in Tanner Boser, who at one point in time had a lot of hype around him. I mean, Boser, you know, I know he lost to Ciryl Gane, but he beats Daniel Spitz in his first fight in the UFC, loses to Lookboonmee, who you know how good that guy is now after his victory over Tai Tuivasa. He beats Felipe Lins, he beats Rafael Pessoa. You're thinking after Pessoa win for Tanner Boser, like, this guy, all right, fly me to the moon. Frank Sinatra, let's go, right? Boser fights Andrei Arlovski, loses. I mean, Arlovski is the prospect killer at this point. It's not the prospect killer for guys in the top 10, but guys who are like trying to work their way in the top 20. No, Arlovski sends those guys back down to top 25. And then Boser ran to Ilir Latifi, that weird fight where, you know, Boser's out striking Latifi. Latifi does absolutely zero damage, but he does just enough to win the scorecard, so he wins a split decision because of his wrestling. And then Boser's last fight, he beats over St. Preux, who St. Preux's not very good at this point of his career. I know he just won his last fight because he ran into Shogun of all people, that weird fight where St. Preux wins, but Shogun, when they read the scorecards, he thought he won, even though they said Ovince St. Preux, even though Ovince and Mauricio or Shogun don't sound common at all, but Shogun still thought he won. That was weird. UFC 274 in Phoenix, Arizona. But anyway, Boser beat OSP. He knocks him out, TKO'd him in the second round, hit him with the knee, finished him with the strikes. I don't know. I think it's a close fight. I mean, it's a heavyweight fight, so who knows? I mean, anything can happen with Boser and Nascimento. I think on the feet, Boser is the better striker, but I wouldn't be surprised, again, it's heavyweight MMA. If Nascimento just connected and put him down or rocked him or whatnot. On the ground, I'm giving the advantage to Nascimento. It's a matter of if he can take Boser down or not, because Boser's takedown defense is actually pretty solid. I mean, the only guy to really do it is Latifi, but Latifi, even, you know, I know he went 2 for 3, but still, Latifi did have some problems holding Boser down. Eventually, Boser would work back up. I mean, kind of. Boser would offer a little bit of resistance on the takedowns against Ilir Latifi. I don't know if Nascimento is just gonna be that simple for him where he goes in there and just immediately takes him down and puts him on his back. You know, the only guy he's been able to do that to is Dontel Mays, and Mays' jiu-jitsu is not the greatest, and his wrestling isn't the greatest either. So I'm gonna take Tanner Boser. Not confident on the pick. It's, you know, kind of low-level heavyweight fighting, but I think Boser is just able to do enough. I'll say knockout for Boser. I'm going to keep picking him by knockout. I mean, I'm not confident on the pick, but I'll say Tanner Boser first round knockout. Again, I think he's just able to land early on Nascimento. It's one of those classic heavyweight fights where the, you know, one guy lands on the other. Tanner Boser is going to put him down. I got Boser by first round knockout. Okay, co-main event time. 2 bangers here. Chidi and Njokuani. Chidi Bang Bang takes on Gregory Rodrigues, the RoboCop banger of a fight here, because both these guys are going to throw. Now, I think there is a way for Rodrigues to win this one if he takes down Njokuani. He doesn't, you know, mess with the striking. But Njokuani could definitely keep this fight standing. That's something that we will see because, you know, Dusko Todorovic was able to take down Njokuani in their fight, the one where Njokuani knocked him out the home Vieira card, and that gave Chidi Bang Bang a little bit of problems. But I think if Rodrigues wants to make this a little bit boring, and unlike what he did in the Julian Marquez fight where he went there and he swung and he knocked him down 3 times, I think there's a chance where you could just go in there and just ground Njokuani and maybe eventually submit him. I think that's definitely a possibility considering, hell, that's what John Salter was able to do to him in Bellator, right? I mean, Koreshov kind of did it as well, but he finished him on the ground. John Salter went in there and, you know, grounded Njokuani immediately. He took his back and submitted him. I think that's a definite possibility what Rodrigues can do to Chidi Bang Bang. It's just a matter of will he do it or not. I think that was kind of a question a lot of people had with Khamzat Chimaev and Kevin Holland, right? It's like, okay, is Is Khamzat going to fight this fight like he did against Gilbert Burns? Because if he does, he might get knocked out. But if he just goes in there and takes him down and he's not worried about the jiu-jitsu of Holland like he was against Burns, well, he's just going to submit him in the first round. Now, I never made a video on that, of course, because the fights got switched 24 hours before the card started. But, you know, if you want to believe me, I picked Daniel Rodrigues to beat Jing Liang by decision. I thought Jing Liang won, but hell, we got it right. I picked Khamzat by first round submission, and I took Tony Ferguson by decision. Didn't happen in the main event. Of course, Diaz won, but... you know, things are going to happen. Tony still can't win a fight, but at least he's happy, I guess. But, you know, with Rodrigues and Njokuani, I think it's an incredible fight. It's just a matter of what does Rodrigues want to do. Because I think if he does go to the grappling, he does go to wrestling and jiu-jitsu, okay, I think he can beat Njokuani down there. But if he doesn't, it's a 50-50 toss-up fight. Because both these guys throw very hard, and both these guys can knock guys out in a heartbeat. I mean, you look at Njokuani's run so far in the UFC, it's back-to-back first-round knockout finishes. Marc-Andre Barriault in 16 seconds, and he comes back 3 months later, he knocks out Dusko Todorovic in the first round as well. I mean, again, both these guys just throw pure heat for punches. I mean, look at Rodrigues' run so far. He beats Dusko Todorovic in a decision, and then he knocks out Junior Park after, you know, he's kind of down in that fight, but he comes back in the second, regroups, knocks him out. He has that weird split decision loss to Armand Petrosyan where you can make the case Rodrigues wins, and then he knocks out Julian Marquez in his next fight, knocks him down 3 times in the first round. And really, that's all the confidence I've been gaining in Rodrigues is because of that fight against Marquez where he just walked him down, kept walking him down, kept knocking him down, and kept walking him down again. I think it's a banger. But I think Rodrigues is going to get stuck in the trap of striking with chitty chitty bang bang. And if he does that, well, I think Njokuani is going to knock him out. So that's my prediction. I think Njokuani is going to catch Gregory Rodrigues here. I think you're going to see a stand-up fight, and I honestly think on the feet is a toss-up. I think it's a pure toss-up, but I do like Njokuani striking here. I think Njokuani is faster than Rodrigues. I think Rodrigues, again, I think he hits for more power, but I think Njokuani is just quicker, and he's a little bit more technical. I think he's going to pick his shots like a sniper at the right spots. I think he'll land 1-2 clean across the chin of Gregory Rodrigues. I think he's going to put him down in the first round. So I'm going to take Chidi Njokuani to knock out Gregory Rodrigues. I got him in the first round, give him 3 fights in the UFC, all 3 of them by first round knockout. Chitty chitty bang bang, making the best out of his opportunity so far in the UFC. Give him another victory, knocking out RoboCop in the first round. All right, main event time. We have got the Sandman, Corey Sandhagen, taking on Song Yadong in the main event here at 135 pounds. And, you know, we have a lot of big 135-pound matchups coming up, and ones that just passed, of course, talking about Merab Dvalishvili versus Jose Aldo. You're talking about Dominic Cruz, Marlon Chito Vera. And then coming up, of course, you got the championship fight, Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling, taking on TJ Dillashaw. And then, of course, you got the other one, Sean O'Malley versus the man himself and Piotr Jan. I'm sure I'm missing one. I think down the line, well, Frankie Edgar's going to find his final fight. Probably, I think, against Ricky Simone, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, actually, no, I hope it's Dominic Cruz. It should be Dominic Cruz in November. We'll see. Anyways, Sandhagen, Song Yadong, another big fight here in the bantamweight division. You know, we'll talk about the rankings after we're done giving our prediction and where the winner of this fight just go, because again, bantamweight is stacked and there's a lot of moving pieces to this weight class, and I guess I will match make the 135-pound division. But in this fight, you know, Sandhagen is on a 2-fight losing streak. Now, a lot of people thought he beat TJ Dillashaw. Personally, I wasn't one of those people. I actually thought Dillashaw won the fight, and I picked Sandhagen to win. I still thought, I thought TJ did enough, honestly. Maybe it's just the way I score fights and how I judge wrestling and whatnot, but I actually thought, you know, Dillashaw won that. Anyways, before that, for Sandhagen, before the back-to-back losses, of course, you got the title shot against Jan for the interim belt. He loses by decision. That fight was tremendous, and Sandhagen looks good in the first, but Jan just kind of broke him down as the fight went on. That fight right there in Abu Dhabi, UFC 267, between Piotr Jan and Corey Sandhagen makes me pose this question. Just how good is Aljamain Sterling? I mean, I am one of the biggest Aljamain Sterling fans you are going to find, but I will keep, pushing that agenda, how good the Funk Master really is. The man does not get the respect he deserves, and he's going to go in there, he's going to submit TJ Dillashaw in the first round in a couple weeks. But anyways, that fight seriously makes you pose the question, how good is Algeo? Because, Jan does well, and Sandhagen does okay against Jan, but Jan kind of dominates that fight rounds 2 through 5, and Algeo goes in there and beats him in the first 3 rounds when they fight the second time. Just saying. And he beat him in the first 3 rounds of the first fight. Algeo's good, man. But Sandhagen, before those 2 losses, he comes in there, he knocks out Frankie Edgar with the big flying knee knockout. He knocks out Marlon Moraes. Moraes with the broken orbital, but he still gets him with the spinning wheel kick. Sandhagen gets choked out by Aljamain Sterling in 90 seconds before that. He beats the Sun Sao, beats John Lineker, and the rest is history, right? He's taking on Song Yadong. Song Yadong's coming off the victory over Marlon Moraes. Now, Marlon Moraes, I don't know if he was checked out going into the Song Yadong fight. I don't know what his mental state was at going into that fight, but you knew Marlon Moraes was just about done. The guy is getting up there in age. He's now retired, and he's been knocked out 3 straight times. Sandhagen, Font, Dvalishvili, You can make the case he did lose. I mean, he should have lost the Jose Aldo fight, and he lost to Henry Cejudo. So the man was basically on a 5-fight losing streak going into the Song Yadong fight, and he lost. So Song Yadong took advantage. He knocked him on the first round, caught him with a big uppercut, and put him down and put him out. That's what Song Yadong's supposed to do against an aging guy in Marlon Moraes who's already got 1 foot out the door. Before that, Song Yadong goes in there and knocks out Julio Arce. He beats Casey Kenny in that back and forth fight. Split decision victory at UFC 265. And then before that, he loses to Kyler Phillips. But the fight before that's the big one. He beats Marlon Chito Vera, beats him by unanimous decision. I think that's, if Song Yadong wins, I think that is the next fight for him. He should fight Chito Vera next. I think Vera should try to get his revenge against Song Yadong. And the winner of that fight, maybe honestly, is challenging for a championship next. But I think that is the logical next fight for Song Yadong if he's able to pull off the victory. And even with the loss, maybe you've looked at that too. But honestly, for being honest with ourselves, I think the winner of this fight probably just fights Chito Vera, but we'll talk about that in a second. But no, Yadong's good, man. Song Yadong's got crisp striking. He's got very powerful hands as well. Same with Sandhagen. Now, Sandhagen's got power too, but he's more of, Sandhagen's good on the feet. He's got powerful hands, but it's more of the flashy stuff that's going to knock someone out with Corey Sandhagen. I'm talking the wheel kicks out of Moraes. I'm talking the flying knees against what he did against Frankie Edgar. I'm talking the body shot he landed against Austin Arnett. It's not often that Sandhagen's just going to piece you ones and twos and, knock you out with hooks. It's just not what he does, right? But no, he's really on the feet, though. He's always throwing. Sandhagen is always very active, and you know that he can go all 5 rounds. I haven't seen Song Yadong in a 5-round environment just yet. We will see him for the first time if this one does go past and go into the championship rounds this Saturday night. But I know Sandhagen will be there for all 5 rounds. Well, Song Yadong, I don't know. We'll wait and see. But again, you know how good Sandhagen is. He's got that funky style where, again, he's so lanky as a fighter at bantamweight. He will throw his knees. He'll throw his body kicks. He'll throw his body shots. He's good, man. Sandhagen's a good fighter. He's a very good striker. He's just got to watch out for the power of Song Yadong. And I think as long as he doesn't get knocked out, though, I think he wins. I think Song Yadong's good, but I don't think he's on the level yet of the Sandman. Corey Sandhagen is truly an elite level fighter at this weight class. And what he's shown in his last couple of fights, I know he loses back-to-back fights, but still, the competitive nature he's able to show in the Dillashaw fight, and the ability for him to stay competitive in that fight against TJ is very telling in the fight against Jan, too. I know, again, Jan's coming off the title loss, but still, he's able to stay competitive and trade back and forth and, not get finished by Piotr Jan in that fight and still offer Piotr Jan some strikes the other direction. I think is very telling. I really think it is. And of course, Sandhagen can always land. He can always land a big shot. But again, his 2 latest knockouts are against aging veterans. And one guy's who's retired in Marlon Moraes, and another guy's about to retire in November in Frank Yeager. But given Corey Sandhagen kind of sent both those guys down that downward trajectory, because I think a lot of people forget going into that Sandhagen-Moraes fight, Marlon Moraes is probably going to get a title shot over Aljamain Sterling if he went out and beat Corey Sandhagen. That's why the UFC didn't announce Aljamain Sterling versus Piotr Jan, because they were waiting for Marlon Moraes, and I think they wanted Moraes to beat Sandhagen, but it never happened. So they had to give it to Algeo because Algeo had already beat Sandhagen to that point. But in this one between Sandhagen and Song Yadong, I'm taking the Sandman. I'm taking Corey Sandhagen. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. I think Sandhagen shows that he's the better striker. I think he works the body really well. And I think he just pieces up Song Yadong for 5 rounds. I think as long as Song Yadong doesn't catch him in the first 2, I really do like Sandhagen to take over from there. I think he'll win 3, 4, and 5 pretty convincingly. I think he'll win the first round too. I'll give Song Yadong maybe the second. I think maybe he turns up in the second round, really tries to put an end to the night for Sandhagen. I think he'll win the round in the process, but he'll really tire himself out for the rest of the fight. So I think Sandhagen wins 4 rounds to 1. I got him 49-46 with a unanimous decision victory. Like the Sandman to go in there and win this one using striking to his advantage and pick up a key win here in the bantamweight division. So now you look at the bantamweight rankings. Where do you go from here? Well, we got the champion Aljamain Sterling fighting TJ Dillashaw. We'll see what happens in that fight, and then you got Jan fighting Sean O'Malley. So those matchups are set for now, but Merab Dvalishvili is still without a fight. Jose Aldo's without a fight. Chito Vera doesn't have a fight. Rob Font doesn't have a fight. Dominic Cruz doesn't have a fight. I said it earlier, I think the most reasonable matchup here, though, is honestly the winner of this fight fights Chito Vera. It makes sense. It really does. Is Corey Sandhagen getting a title shot anytime soon? Probably not, because he lost to Piotr Jan. He's already lost to Algeo. But the way he can work himself back up to that fight as quick as possible is likely winning 3 fights. Now, Sandhagen Yadong is included in that, and the next one would be Chito Vera, and it'd probably be one more after that. But if he can beat Chito Vera, he'd be the first guy to do it in a while since Song Yadong, and it'd be very telling, actually, since Jose Aldo, but still be very telling, and it'd be a good win for Sandhagen. And of course, if Song Yadong wins, it makes sense, right? Yadong versus Chito 2 is a big fight. A lot of people thought Chito Vera won that fight. Marlon Vera definitely thought he won that fight. He walked off before shaking hands with Song Yadong in Jacksonville. And, that's a good fight that you can definitely remake and do a rematch for. But For me, though, I got Corey Sandhagen to beat Song Yadong, and I think he moves on again to that fight against Chito Vera, probably sometime first quarter of 2023. So, folks, thank you all for watching our full card predictions here with this fight night this weekend, this Saturday from the UFC Apex. In the main event, of course, Corey Sandhagen, Song Yadong. We are back in the Sandman this week. We got him by decision in that 5-round fight against his Chinese foe in Song Yadong. So, folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you like. If you enjoyed the video, give a like for watching. Mamba forever.